You know, kind of looking over Tomeka's CV, resume, bio is kind of mind-blowing in terms of accomplishments and components to your practice as a musician. In addition to playing as a also composer, an educator, an organizer. And I wanted to talk a little bit about each of those things, but the first question I had is the multiplicity of work you do, a way of dealing with the economic realities of being a musician today. Because in my experience from when I started playing 30 years ago, there's been huge changes in the economic landscape, and the difficulties of not even surviving as a musician, but continuing as a musician and having outside economic resources has become more and more difficult. I was just wondering, is this kind of a approach to what you do to make it viable to work and do the work you want to do so many different kinds of things?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I knew that I wanted to be a performer. I wanted to play music, and you know, I play in a space of music that isn't like super popular, but I love it, and so then it just makes me think about like what are things that are important to me? Like, what do I want in my life, or like what type of lifestyle do I want? And yeah, so I think you have to wear a lot of different hats. And I always thought, like, you know, you kind of have to have until you can do what you want to do full time or 100%, you kind of have to have like whatever, a side hustle of some kind. So for me, I was a middle school, high school orchestra director for like 8 years. But I realized that, you know, but I had that position, and then I would play at night and on the weekends and things. But I realized that, even though I have this amazing steady job, it was like that's not really what speaks to me or what I want to do full time. Because it wasn't, for one, being a teacher is a really serious job, and it's not like a side hustle, like it's a career. And so I felt like my heart wanted to do this type of thing, even though I guess monetarily it doesn't, bring in the same kind of money a teacher would make or other professions would make. Or, you think about, wow, I was playing with the art ensemble, which, is like
That's a really good gig.
yeah, well, but it's like, in some, the equivalent in some other profession would probably bring you like six figures, but in a 401k, but that's not what happens in our world. But that's a choice that I made, and I feel really fulfilled, and I like all the things that I'm able to do. I feel like wealth means a lot of different things to different people. For me, having experiences, being able to do what I really love doing, and even if it doesn't yield a ton of money, it's more satisfying than me doing something that I'm not excited about. So in that way, yes, you have to, you end up wearing a lot of hats, and a lot of the stuff I do, I never really thought I would do. Like, the fact that I got asked to write music for a soundtrack or something, it was like I studied cello, and I was doing classical cello for 2 degrees. And so I feel really grateful that, I moved to Chicago for one. It really changed my life. And all the being open to trying all these different experiences, and, yeah, like let's compose, like being part of the ACM, as far as like composing or whatever, like encouraging you to compose or encouraging you to play in all these different ensembles, or just being on the scene here, and being one of few cello players at the time that was doing stuff, and being asked to, I didn't know what I was doing, but figuring it out, and that's how you're developing your voice and all those things. So I think all those things, and then one of my mentors before I moved to Chicago was like, always make sure that you have a string of income that comes from not one single source. Like, make sure that, so that if this thing doesn't work out, you still have this thing going on over here, or that way you're just kind of more in charge of what's going on. Or if it's like, you don't have to worry about like politics or something. It's like, I want to do this thing, so it's like, if this person has a vibe or whatever, I'm doing this over here. So it's like, you're always creating the things, or being a part of things, or being open to things. And so, yeah, long-winded.
No, that's
question.
beautiful. And that advice, I wish that I had heard that a long time ago, because it's really, really good advice to not have everything in one channel. Mm-hmm. So if something doesn't fly, another thing can take off. And, it's really sound advice to anybody who wants to do anything creative. Could you talk a little bit about your approach to writing material for improvisers? Because I'm really fascinated by this topic, and I feel it's a thing. I mean, I mentioned it on some other interviews. There's a big difference between composing through composed music and music that's designed to have interior flexibility to incorporate spontaneous interaction with materials. How do you approach that? How do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people would agree that it really matters the players that you play with. I mean, that's like a huge, huge part of the compositional process. I didn't really understand that early on, but you pick players that are open and receptive to talking about ideas, and that are just flexible. And I'm sorry if I'm shivering. I'm just a little chilly. I don't know if there's like a... it's not nerves. I'm just cold.
We could change seats because it's pretty toasty here.
Is that okay for the camera? Because I'm like... super cold. Back in the day, I would have been nervous, but I'm not nervous right now. I'm just cold. But yeah, I think, that feels so much better.
Have at it.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say that, who you pick as a player is a really important part of the process, and picking people that are open to trying new ideas, and that's like a huge part of it. And then, I don't know. I mean, again, I feel really fortunate that no one... I mean, it was frustrating sometimes when I was first starting out. Like, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, like, really. And I'm asking, like, what should I do? And I feel like people just really were like, I don't know, you hear it, you figure it out, what you're doing sounds great. And I'm like, but I don't feel comfortable, And so I think now, the 2020 version of myself, like when I work with other people, it's like I do trust what they have to say. I don't really want to tell people what to do, but it's because I've heard what they have done, and I know, like in my quartet, it's like Mary is super flexible, Tom is super flexible, Jason is as well, and so I just try to give material that doesn't kind of get in the way of their process of dealing with the notated music. Yeah, I just try to give them space to contribute. Like I know it's the Tomeka Reid Quartet, but I think of it very much as like it's a collective effort in making, the little black dots on the page that I write kind of come to life. So I think really starting with who you're playing with is a big part of the process.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with that. Can you talk just a moment about some composers in this tradition that, like, for you, have inspired you to kind of find your own voice in that? Anybody in particular?
I mean, I think the people that we mentioned, Roscoe, Braxton, listening to Wadada, Nikki, Mike, Josh, Dave, I really feel like I listen to recordings, but I really love going to hear live music. And I feel like, I try to go to shows as often as I can because it's like the music is, this type of music too, I feel like doesn't always translate on a record. It's really cool to see like, oh, you thought that was the horn player, but it actually was a cello or it was this other instrument. So it's kind of like seeing that, hearing that, experiencing that, and then when you're writing, you're thinking about all those ideas are kind of swirling around in your head too.
Yeah, I think that book on Braxton Forces in Motion, that idea like is super evident live. Mm-hmm. The way the materials move, the way that the players interact, all the visual stimulus you get from the interaction, so much more comes across in a performance.
And also in the room, because it's like it's never just the three players. It's like the three players, and the wind was really, for me when we were playing, the wind was like really intense, and so sometimes I would just sit and just like hearing the wind with when Joshua and Dave were just playing, or and then people are watching, so it's like all of that changes the space, and I don't think it always comes across on a record. So yeah,
that's
elements.
Absolutely true, and I think that's why people taking a risk like this to come out and hear this music live is so crucial, because stuff that happens in that experience, the human expression of it comes across, whereas like if someone put on a record of it at home during dinner, people might be like, what is that? But when they're sitting there experiencing it in person, it's like, oh, it's human. It's just music. It's not strange or difficult or it's challenging, it's risk-taking, but that's also beautiful, and it comes across live. I had one last question. I'm going to turn it over to the audience to if they have any questions for Tomeka, and I really appreciate you taking the time after playing, because I know it's a challenge having to do it sometimes too. You talked a little bit in something I read where initially, in terms of using electronics, you felt like the cello was so expansive acoustically, you weren't interested in that, and then working with Mary Halverson for a while, you started to think about incorporating that. Can you talk a little bit about the change in your perspective and how that developed and why it's exciting for you?
Yeah, I mean, when I first moved to Chicago, actually, I did get like a wah pedal, and I had a Line 6, and I had these things, but then I just felt like, I don't know, just what I was seeing actually with string players, I felt like at that time, so that's like a while ago, like 20 years ago, it felt like, okay, they lay down a bass line, and I have done this and I enjoy it, it's fun, but you play down the bass line, then you do a harmony, then you solo on top of it, and that was kind of like the extent of what I was seeing. And I mean, that's cool, but I really, I feel like seeing Mary use that as a voice was really inspiring. And I also felt like there's still so much more to explore my instrument, but I felt like I really wanted to explore, like milk everything out of the instrument that I could, like with preparations or just with sounds, just with my bow. Like what can I do with just my instrument and myself, before I kind of added these other elements. I don't know, I think early on I just felt like, not that it was cheating, but I just felt like, why am I using it? Like, I want to be intentional with it. And I felt like, whenever I would think about it, it's like, well, have you really explored everything that you can possibly do? And I feel like I have explored enough to kind of to now enter this other space, and I still feel like I want to use it kind of judiciously because I still love, you know, the acoustic sound of the instruments. Like, even though I play carbon fiber, and if anybody knows, like, my wooden cello has gotten damaged so much by TSA, and that's why I play this instrument. Some people thought, like, I moved to New York and, like, I'm trying to get hip, and it's like, no. It's really practical. I used to really not like it, like the sound of it, but it's kind of grown on me, and I'm like, people still hire me, so I guess it's okay. But I still play a wooden bow. I didn't switch totally, but yeah, I just felt like, and then I also, yeah, like I said, with this one, the new quality with it is that I can really hit it. You know, I can really use it as a percussion instrument. I can put water on it. So it's like I'm still exploring like different things I can do, which I couldn't do with a wooden cello. Like, I really wouldn't want to beat up my cello like that. Or, you know, I use the pencil because bows are expensive and I love Col Leño sound, but I don't want to, you know, I have a bow that just has all these nicks on it, and it's like, that's like a $2,000, and that's not even expensive, but a $2,000 bow, and it's like I'm banging it, which I having fun doing it, but that's kind of why I use the pencil, and I can get even different effects with that, and, you know, so like, I mean, like those types of things causes you to kind of expand or explore what you're doing with the instrument. And so, yeah, now I just feel like I want to. Also, I will say for 17 years, I had a David Gage flight case, which is like almost 50 pounds. And I think that's contributed some of the muscle things I'm having. But I carried this thing around forever. And so I could never bring many clothes or shoes or anything. It was just like the cello and like a small suitcase. And now I have this amazing, I feel so fancy. It's like a cord flight case that is, the whole thing I think is like 12, it's either 12 or 15 pounds, which in my world is like amazing. So I can bring shoes, it can be clothes, and I can actually bring pedals, because that was the other thing. Like the weight, I had to think about that too. It's like you're going from city to city with your touring, and you have to carry all your stuff with you. There's no one, it's not a Beyonce tour, you know, people like you have to carry everything. So now, you know, I feel like, okay, I have my pedals, you know, a few pedals. I still don't bring a lot, but that's also a reason why I'm kind of like, okay, I can think about that now because I actually can carry it with me.
Yeah, it's incredible like how just practical reality totally affects the creative work, because if you can't have access, you're not going to do it, you know. And I remember one of the interviews I got to do on the Option series early on was with Ikue Mori, and I asked her why she started using drum machines, you know, when she started off as a drummer, and her answer was straight up, I got tired of carrying drums upstairs. And like she revolutionized the use of drum machines. You know, she's like a super innovator, but it was just a practical concern that changed the trajectory. The way she worked, and the drum machines led to using the laptop, and she innovated on that too, blew the doors open on that. So, yeah, reality is a big factor in the kinds of work we do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's fun. I'm having a good time. You know, I just have a octave pedal and I guess a loop type thing, and it's super fun to just drop it in sometimes. But so yeah.
Okay. We'll take few questions from the audience if anybody has anything for Tomeka. I'll repeat the questions because this is being recorded to be transcribed for the archive. So, yeah, okay. I'll just repeat it because then we don't have to walk around.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thinking about you guys talking about this improvised music in relationship to more straight music, maybe want to ask you a question about Abdul Wadud. There's a story that I guess I've read a few times. I wouldn't say famous story, but not that famous, about him doing an orchestra gig under his given name, Rob and some guy being like, "Oh, you do improvised music? You got to check out this guy Abdul Wadud."
Right.
And I was wondering, because you spent a lot of time with him, I wonder if there's any other stories like that might not be like about that tension between those two worlds in his life that you know.
So the question, I think, is are there anecdotes or stories about the dynamic in Abdul Wadud, their career as an improviser and as under another name as like I don't know what you put it.
Pseudonym, I guess.
Huh?
Is it pseudonym? I don't know.
What?
Is it called pseudonym?
I guess synonym, yes. A
Pseudonym?
synonym. I don't think it's synonym.
Oh no, okay.
It is pseudonym.
Pseudonym?
Between these worlds navigating like the quote unquote official art world versus the underground, so to speak. Is that sort of?
Yeah, I can't really recall any other stories like that. Besides that story being kind of funny, that he felt the need to do that. Just when I remember when me and Joel Wannick went to see him and just how he was like, people know who I am, or this the fact that he didn't realize his impact. I think that was the thing that really just kind of struck me that, I don't know, maybe he thought he was forgotten about, or he just didn't really. And I think he was being genuine. I don't think he was like, what? Like, it seemed like he was really taken aback that we had taken the time to like seek him out and talk to him and just get to know him and to keep up with him and stuff like that. I always say, like, I met Abdul partly because I really wanted to meet Billy. I mean, I wanted to meet Abdul too, but I also wanted to meet Billy Bang, and I never got to meet Leroy Jenkins. And I used to work at this amazing venue, the Hot House, and I actually met Billy Bang there one time. And I was like, when I really learn more about this music, I would love to play with him one day. And I think I was like, I'm going to get the courage to, check him out or ask him or something. And then that's when I learned that he had passed. And then I learned that Leroy Jenkins had passed. And I was like, man, I can't let all my, heroes pass without at least trying to reach them. So I would also say that, like, younger player or older player, if there's a player out there that you're really curious about, don't wait till you think that you know something. Just reach out to them, because they might be gone, and then what are you gonna do then? And they're also so grateful. Actually, I found like all the people that I've reached out to, like Deirdre Murray, she's like my super buddy. She's so sweet and funny, and I think sometimes they think they've been forgotten about, and it's just, I think it's good to just reach out to them and just to say thank you.
Yeah, saying thank you goes a long way. It really does. Yeah.
I'm just curious, since basically you're creating music all the time, what would be an impetus for you to decide to compose a formal piece?
Since Tomeka's improvising all the time, what would be the motivation to notate something and create a compositional piece?
Sometimes you just get a commission, and so
Practicalities.
and then but they're I usually say, I mean, I'm learning to say no to things, but I've said yes to those in part because it's like, oh, I've never written for this instrumentation, and so that's kind of interesting. Like, what would I write for this? Like, I have a piece coming up for the Chicago Youth Orchestra, which I worked for actually before I became a teacher, which I think I'm doing it partly because of that, because I just think it's funny that I used to move the chairs for them, and now they asked me to write a composition for them. It's really interesting how things come around. But yeah, like, do that. Or something that was different with this latest record that I did is that, when I was first starting out, I felt like, oh, I have to write tunes because I have to write a record, and I have to show the cello that I can play jazz, or that the cello is a viable instrument in jazz or something like that. So I felt like I wrote more tunes pieces, and I feel like on this last record I was like, but I really love, and people will say that to me, like, oh, you write like really melodic or tuneful things, but then when you're improvising you're like doing something totally different. And I was like, yeah. And I guess I wanted to think about how do I merge more of those. And I always think that I love the in and out, like they come together, but then I think I was still kind of separating them and not really realizing that. And so I think with this latest record, I tried to that's what I do. I really like improvising. And so I felt like this was more of a combination of the two, or there's equal weight on both. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
We'll do one more, maybe Hunter right now. What is the impact on various prizes you've received for your work, and such as the MacArthur Fellowship, had on your on the reality, the logistics of your life, but also the creativity of what you do? If those resources impacted you in those kinds of ways?
Yeah, I would say that, the timing of when I got it, I guess basically it started like last year, and I feel like because of the pandemic, I was still doing like a lot of, or doing a lot of makeup pandemic performances. So I would love to have more time, just to not be on the road as much, I would say. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm saying that. I mean, because I love to travel, but I feel like I've had to kind of like, I feel like I haven't been able to do what I would like to do, I guess is what I'm getting at, is that because I had these other previous commitments. So like next year, I'm definitely going to take like a sabbatical, I'm claiming this. You guys hear me this. My husband hears
We're holding
this.
it to it.
But yeah, so I would say that's one of the, I guess, privileges of it that I can think about. Like, okay, I want to really take some time out to just like process actually everything that's happened. I honestly, since I was 17, I feel like just to take time to just like, I mean, those 2 months I'm taking, it's not like I'm going to process everything, but at least I can kind of start. So I feel like I haven't totally been able to really be like, oh my gosh. I mean, I have done it a little bit, but just to be like, okay, oh my gosh, I have this thing. So that's something that's coming up. I will say though that this year I was able to realize a project that I really wanted, and I don't think I would have been able to afford to do it without this fellowship. So I have a basically a 16-piece string ensemble with 17-piece with conductor. And so I was able to write new music for that, and I was able to, we did a performance at the Walker Arts Center, we did something at Dartmouth College, I wrote a new book of music, we played another book of music. I was able to like get a copyist, like what? Like someone to like make my parts not look all crazy. And to afford that, I had a production assistant. So it's like those types of things. I was able to take advantage of that this year. And, we're going to do this performance, actually, I think it's November 8th at the University of Chicago. So it's helped to, like, support, like, a large project like that, because I have been writing grants to try and get funding for that, and I was not successful for it. So for me, I feel like I've tried to apply for things, and I don't get it, but then I'll get this, like, what? Like, okay. So it kind of, I guess, luckily it worked out in that way. But, yeah, I would say that I've been able to, I can think about doing, we recorded, that was another thing too. So it's like paying, I mean, I didn't pay myself, so I think that's why I keep thinking 16, but it's like to pay 16 people for, a recording and 3 days of rehearsal and all that stuff. I would not be able to do that, on my free jazz salary. So I'm grateful.
Salary?
Oh, okay, yeah, exactly. Gig earnings. So I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, I guess it just gives you a little bit of mental breathing room to think about, like I said earlier, it's like you can play in this Hallmark band that people all over the world know about, but it doesn't come with retirement. So it's like you can use those types of things to kind of, I'm grateful for those years I did teach, because I had a little bit of retirement there, but, I can start working on those things that we all need. I mean, as we get older, that's the other thing. It's like, I love doing this, but it's like, yeah, I might look young, but we're getting older, and it's like we have to think about real things, like real things. How are we gonna age in a way that's comfortable and doing the things that we want to do? So I guess I'm also thinking about that, and that it's amazing, but it will run out. So it's like trying to be strategic and, trying to be smart with it, and also, yeah, keeping the string summit going, because I was like, I've paid for that literally out of my pocket pretty much every year. I've gotten a little bit of funding, but hopefully I will get some for next year. But this year wasn't like a big burst. I wasn't like, oh my God, and hotels were crazy this year and flights and everything were so crazy this year. So it's great. I'm grateful for like that, so it's helped with those types of things, and to know that the String Summit can continue, a few more years. That's cool, so it's some breathing room in that way. But I think next year I'll really feel it, I guess. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, Tomeka, thank you so much. Oh, sorry.
There was one, I don't know if you still wanted to ask your question. You had your hand raised. Oh, I thought you did. Yeah.
After this time, sure.
I don't know.
Well, first of all, thanks. It's always special seeing you play. And I was thinking about the time I saw actually both of you play at the Mill.
Oh, that was fun.
Interpreting the Fred Anderson and Don Cherry pieces. And was just wondering to say a little bit more about, I don't think there was an occasion for anyone to speak about that, but how it came together, why it was important to you, what it's like when you're interpreting pieces like that for an audience live. What did it do for you all to be part of it? Very moving for me and anyone in the audience that I spoke to, but what was it like for you interpreting those pieces?
Well, Kim put it together, but I'll just say that my motivation for doing it is because of, again, it's like the people that were in the band. I think I hadn't played with Ken since you asked me to do something maybe in 2012. And so I was like, oh, that'd be cool to play with Ken. And then Hamid, I don't really get to play with him because he's out on the road all the time. And then I didn't know the Lemuel, Mark. I didn't know him, so I was like, oh, that's fun. And I love Fred Anderson's music, and I love Don Cherry's music. So for me, I'm kind of a sucker for that. It's like if the music's good, if I like the composers, even if I'm like, I don't have time, but I'm like, I like that. I like the people, or I like the music. And so that's really. And then it was also, I think it was the first gig of the year, and I was like, this is a great way to start the year with this band, these particular people, and the music. So I'll just say that part. But Ken actually put it together.
Well, maybe you could talk a little bit about what it's like to interpret or put your own voice on music, like by people like Julius Hemphill or Fred Anderson or Don Cherry, because I think that's kind of a bit of the crux of the question. And certainly you could talk a bit about that because you've done that throughout your career.
Mm-hmm. Since I knew Fred Anderson, I guess I'll start with that. I mean, Fred Anderson was such an important person to our community, I feel, and going to Fred. Do people know of the Velvet Lounge? There's some people here that were able to go there. So it was just cool to be able to like play his music, because I remember going there, and again, those were in my super shy days, and just like not always talking to him, but knowing that he's super important. And I remember one time in Pisa, we actually were just leaving a rehearsal and walking back to the hotel where the whole band was staying, and I felt like a really special moment. I didn't realize it was 2009 because he passed the next year, but we had a really long talk, and he was like very encouraging, and so yeah, it was just really cool to like be able to play, or at least try to play his music, because then I was still like, oh, what is this world, and to be able to play the music like 15 years later or whatever it was, 18 years later, was pretty cool. Don Cherry, I didn't get to meet him, but I've listened to his music a bunch and have enjoyed his compositions. But I think really for me, it's the composers, but it's also like, oh man, it's a great opportunity to play with Hamid in a rhythm section context. And like I said, I hadn't played with Ken, and even in 2012, I still feel like I was finding my way. So it was like really cool to like have this opportunity to play with Ken again, and it was really awesome to be introduced to this really young, super talented trumpet player, Lemuel. So yeah, that was why it was important for me to do that, or just why I said yes, even though I think I'd only been home like 3 days. It was like
I was pretty amazed that you said yes, actually.
Yeah.
But very thankful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Tomeka. Thanks to Joshua. Thanks to Dave. Big thanks to everybody at Experimental Sound Studio, the staff and the assistants. And I want to also thank Lily Finnegan and Andrew Klinkman for helping with the programming this year. Have a beautiful afternoon, and it's been a beautiful day. Thank you.